Topping today's news, police continue to take firearms off the streets as the Bahamas joins a lawsuit to hold U.S. gun manufacturers accountable, shantytown eviction notices executed on Abaco, and the government looking to demolish abandoned buildings in the downtown area. Good evening, Bahamas. I'm Jcn. This is your JCN Evening News. It's a pleasure to have you join us. During a joint press conference with Prime Minister Philip Davis held at the police headquarters on Wednesday morning, Commissioner of Police Clayton Fernanda revealed startling information that police have seized 74 firearms so far for 2023 and some 400 firearms seized in 2022. He credits the seizures to heightened police patrols.
The year 2022. We were able to take 400 weapons off our streets. And just to give you a breakdown of the type of weapons that were seized. Pistols, a total of 308 pistols, revolvers, 22, rifles, and this is the high-powered rifle, 40, shotguns, 30. Thus far for the year, we have seized 74 weapons. The breakdown, 64 pistols, 2 revolvers, 4 rifles, 4 shotguns. Ammunition seized 2,672. Ammunition seized for the year 2022, a total of 5,000 rounds. And that is very significant.
Almost 92% of serious crimes committed in the Bahamas involve firearms. The police commissioner says the majority of those firearms confiscated have been traced to our neighbors to the north.
These weapons were traced. The majority of these weapons traced and are connected came from the U.S. 90% of the weapons traced from the U.S. And this is the highest in the region. Very significant. 90% of the weapons seized, what you see before you this morning, were traced back to the U.S., the highest in the region. And what is on display, it's only half of the weapons that I mentioned. It was a total of 400. That's just a little over 100 that is there on the table. So our streets is flooded with weapons.
Today's meeting was to discuss the filing of a brief in a United States court against gun manufacturers. The Bahamas has joined a $10 billion lawsuit brought against 7 major U.S. gun manufacturers and 1 gun wholesaler and distributor by Mexico, who wants them to be held accountable for the trafficking of firearms throughout the region. The Mexican government last year filed a lawsuit. However, in November, a U.S. District Court for the District of Massachusetts dismissed that case. Prime Minister Philip Davis, in a statement last evening, says by the Bahamas joining the lawsuit, which is now in a U.S. Court of Appeal, is part of a broader effort to reduce the impact of gun violence in the country and hold the United States accountable. Prime Minister Davis telling reporters this morning that Mexico has requested countries experiencing similar issues in respect to gun-related crimes to file an amicus brief to show support.
So we would have filed that brief along with several of our Caribbean countries, who most of whom are suffering the same fate that we are with gun-related violence, guns that are again traced back to manufacturers in the United States. And that action was filed by our Attorney General, of course, had been filed by our Attorney General, yesterday was filed. Brief was filed yesterday, and we would have issued a statement with respect to that yesterday as well. This is not an action against the United States, it's against the U.S. manufacturers of guns.
The Bahamas was joined in the legal action by Antigua and Barbuda, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Trinidad and Tobago, as well as the Latin American and Caribbean Network for Human Security, a network of NGOs and affiliated professionals specializing in international humanitarian law and seeking disarmament in the Latin American and Caribbean region.
The scale of this issue extends beyond the borders of any single country, and we understand that a comprehensive and coordinated response is necessary. By joining forces with our regional partners, we are sending a strong message that we will not tolerate the unchecked flow of illegal firearms into our nations, and that we expect the international community, including gun manufacturers, to respect and support our efforts to protect our citizens. We understand that this legal battle will not be easily won, but we remain steadfast in our pursuit of justice and our duty to protect the lives, health, and security of our people.
The brief, among other things, states unlawful trafficking of American firearms must be curtailed at the source, the U.S. gun industry. The brief points to the increase in gun violence in the Bahamas, including collateral damage to innocent victims, including children caught in the crossfire in recent years.
Prime Minister, I acknowledge the importance of this legal action and the potential for a positive outcome in our ongoing fight against gun violence. We have witnessed firsthand the devastating consequences of illegal firearms on our communities, families, and overall security. This lawsuit represents our commitment to seeking justice and accountability from those who contribute to the proliferation of these weapons. Our collaboration with Mexico, other Caribbean nations, and the Latin American and Caribbean Network for Human Security showcases the unity and determination of our region to address the issue of illegal firearms.
260 eviction notices have been posted in unregulated communities on Abaco. The move comes on the heels of the Supreme Court lifting an injunction last month that prohibited the government from demolishing shanty towns across the country. It also comes 1 month after Prime Minister Philip Davis, during a national address, pledged to take decisive action on shanty towns and announced Operation Secure, a collaboration between the Royal Bahamas Defense and Police Forces and the Department of Immigration to aid in tackling unregulated communities. Tuesday evening, the task force, in a statement, said the joint operation executed eviction notices in shantytown communities off SC Boodle Highway on both the north and south sides of the highway. The exercise took approximately 2 hours, with the task force reporting that the atmosphere was calm and without incident. While the government continues to hope for conditions to improve in Haiti, the Davis administration remains resolute in its position that the country's immigration laws will be enforced and violators will be returned to their home countries. Following the posting of eviction notices in shanty towns on Abaco on Tuesday, Labor and Immigration Minister Keith Bell, during a communication in the lower chamber this morning, said special operations are constantly being executed as the Department of Immigration continues to work diligently.
Operation Restore, the special operation in Abaco, launched earlier this year, remains ongoing and have been strengthened through the deployment of additional officers on instructions from the Honorable Prime Minister. It is the resolve of this government, Madam Speaker, that every effort will be made to ensure that the decades-long issue surrounding unregulated migrants will be addressed, not just in Abaco alone. Madam Speaker, since the 20th of February of this year, Operation Restore has resulted in the arrest of 82 persons from Abaco who have been charged and put before the courts. They include 34 Haitian nationals and 1 American national who were charged with illegal entry, 23 Haitian nationals and 3 Jamaican nationals who were charged with overstaying, 1 Jamaican female who was charged with attempting to mislead an immigration officer.
A total of 82 of those charged were convicted, according to the minister, who says it speaks to the hard work of the immigration officers. He noted that special operations are also being carried out on several family islands. Just last Friday, 4 Chinese nationals were discovered hiding in a yard in the area of Royal Palm Way on Grand Bahama.
Since the launch of Operation Secure, we have received various requests on operations to be undertaken in other islands. I can assure the public that our immigration officers on the family islands are also doing their part, as during the past months, persons have been arrested in Bimini, Eleuthera, and Grand Bahama, and have been brought to New Providence for further processing. Operation Secure, Madam Speaker, is the beginning and not the end of special operations on the Family Islands.
Hours before the minister's communication in Parliament today, officers from the Allenstown Police Station arrested 6 Haitian nationals in Baileytown, Bimini, around 6 a.m. after executing a search warrant on a residence where they discovered 3 adult males and 3 adult females. They were all handed over to the Department of Immigration. As of March 21st, 202 migrants of various nationalities are being housed at the Carmichael Road Detention Center. And finally, in this segment, released earlier this week, the 22-page human rights report by the U.S. Department of State continues to reveal attitudes towards multiple aspects of human rights as it relates to those who may be imprisoned here in the Bahamas. In this next report, Cale Campbell unveils challenges that still exist as well as progress made to the Bahamas Department of Corrections.
Overcrowding, inadequate sanitation, poor nutrition, and inadequate medical care. High rates of recidivism among orphans. Just a few words used to describe prison and detention center conditions here in the Bahamas, according to an annual human rights report for 2022 released by the United States Department of State, which went into detail concerning the flawed state of the country's incarceration protocol. In comparison with last year's report of 2021, a year where the world was just coming out of the COVID pandemic, while both reports acknowledged citizens and visitors reporting alleged instances of cruel or degrading treatment of those in custody, despite it being prohibited by the Constitution, there is further detail given in the 2021 Human Rights Report with regards to instances of abuse towards those in custody. Under Section 1C of the report, while it mentions, quote, several reported incidents of physical abuse by prison guards, of the cases with sufficient evidence sent to a disciplinary tribunal, 2 cases were pending trial as of last year's end. Moreover, juvenile pretrial detainees were still being held with adults at the Bahamas Department of Corrections Remand Center as reported last year. As previously mentioned, many of the same issues reported in last year's report remains with the Bahamas Department of Correctional Services, despite that year arguably being hampered the least by COVID-19 so far. Corruption was still reported to be at BDOCS and the Carmichael Road Detention Center for migrants, with no mention of the detention center being adequate even for short-term detention, an observation that was present in last year's report. The U.S. Department of State's Human Rights Report of 2022, however, did highlight improvements made, acknowledging the renovation of 4 maximum security wings and 4 medium security housing units. Also, the report acknowledges the government moving towards a new correctional model, establishing 3 new units, a re-entry unit, a sexual offenses unit, and a parole unit, as well as inmates in the maximum security wing receiving air conditioning.
Thanks so much for that report, Cale. We'll take a break here. We'll be right back after these commercials.